Next, we are going to find out the area under speed time graph. How you can find out the area under speed time graph? For that, see the graph which is given here. It's a speed time graph. Here I consider the two paths. First is shown by the red line and the second one is shown by the green line. When you are going to find out the area under the speed time graph, it means that here you need to find out the area under each section. In the first section, in the green line, you can see when you draw here a line which is shown by the blue arrow, it becomes a triangle. Then you need to know the formula for the area of the triangle. It is half base times height. In this case, the height is here, which is basically the velocity, and the base is time. So you just need to multiply base with height. It is 1 over 2 times base is time multiply velocity is height in this case. In the second curve, when you get a red line, you just need to drop the lines again on the time axis, which is shown by the blue arrow. Then you can see it's a rectangle. And the area of rectangle is basically base times height. Again, in this case, the height is velocity and the base is time. So just multiply base with height means that multiply velocity with time to find out the area under speed time graph. Here you just need to use the formula to find out the area for rectangle and triangle. So which quantity you obtain when you are going to find out the area under speed time graph? Let's see this. Here you can see when I find out the area, it comes to be V multiply T, where V is the speed and T is time, and you know that speed is equals to distance divided by time. When you divide the distance with time, you get the speed. So in this case, if I rearrange this equation, here is V multiplied by time, it would be equals to distance. On the right hand side in the second equation, here is also speed multiplied by time, which is equals to area. When I compare both of these equations 1 and 2, the area will be equals to the distance. It means that the area of speed time graph gives you the distance covered by that body. So it is given here. The distance covered by the object can be found by calculating the area under speed time graph. When you find out the area under speed time graph, basically you are going to calculate how much distance a body will cover. Drop a line from graph on the time axis and the area is calculated by using the formula. Here the area under the green region is basically the triangle. Its area would be 1 over 2 base times height. The base is time and the height is speed. That's why 1 over 2 speed time, and area under the orange region is basically equals to speed multiplied by time, because in this case it's the area of rectangle. So when you have to find out the total area of that graph, you need to add both of these areas. Therefore, the total area under the graph is obtained by adding both of these areas, which is equals to the distance covered by the body. When you add both of these areas, you get the total distance that the body can cover. So I can simply say that when you find out the slope of distance time graph, you get the speed, and when you find out the slope of the speed time graph, you get the acceleration. But by finding the area under the speed time graph, you get the distance. You don't need to confuse in all of these. You just need to remember the formula. When you divide the distance with time, you get the speed. It means that when you find out the gradient of the distance time graph, you get the speed. And when you find out the gradient of speed time graph, you get the acceleration according to this formula. But when you are going to find out the area under speed time graph, you actually get the distance according to distance d is equals to v multiplied by t according to this formula. Here is the exam question that appeared in October-November 2020. The speed time graph represents our journey. Here is the speed time graph that shows our journey. How does the graph shows that the distance traveled in the section x of the journey is greater than the distance traveled in the section y? In this graph, you can see that there are two sections x and y, and it is given that the distance covered in the section x is larger than the distance covered in the section y. How you can show this? Let's see the option. Option A, the area below section x of the graph is greater than the area below section y. Option B, the gradient of the section x of the graph is greater than the gradient of the section y. C, the speed at the end of the section x of the journey is greater than the speed at the end of the section y. D, the time of the section x of the journey is greater than that of the time for section y. So let's see answer and explanation for that. You can see here is a speed time graph. So when you have to show that the distance covered in the section x is larger than the y and it's a speed time graph, it means that you are simply going to calculate the area under the section x and y. See the section x and its area. This area is larger as compared to the area of the section y. When the area of section x is larger than the area of section y, I can simply say that the distance covered in the section x would be larger than the distance covered in the section y. It is basically given here. The area under speed time graph gives the distance traveled by the object. The area under curve in section x is greater than the area under curve in the section y. That's why the correct answer is A, which is showing that the area under the section x is larger than y because the distance traveled by the object in section x is larger than the y. The answer B is incorrect. Let's see the option B. Option B basically showing the gradient, and you know that the gradient of the speed time graph give you the acceleration, not the distance. It means that when the gradient of the speed time graph give you the acceleration, option B is incorrect. Answer B is incorrect because the gradient of the speed time graph gives the acceleration. Now let's see that why the answer C and D, both of these are incorrect. In the C, it's given that the speed at the end of the section x of the journey is greater than the speed at the end of the section y. And in the D, the time for the section x of the journey is greater than the time for the section y. So here the answer C and D, both of these are incorrect because the distance traveled in the sections of graph should be the average distance, which is calculated by the area under the curve of the sections in the speed time graph and cannot be found it by the single value of the speed. It means that from this option, only the correct answer is A. Here is examination tips. When you are going to calculate the area under the graph, then correctly guess that the shape of area, either it's rectangle or triangle, and then use the formula of area for these shapes. You know that when you find out the area of the rectangle, it would be base times height, but the area for triangle is 1/2 base times height. That's why when you are going to calculate the area, you have to guess correctly the shape of that graph and then accordingly use the formula for the area of triangle or rectangle.